Putazos y Pendejadas Podcast.
David Vergil Ortiz defeats Serhiy Bohachuk by a majority decision to win the WBC Junior Middleweight Interim title. The scores were 113, 113, a draw, and then 114 to 112 twice, David. This was a great fight, an outstanding fight of the year. I believe there have been other fights that were pretty good, but not of this magnitude. So by far, this has been fight of the year. What do you think, David?
You have to make it fight of the year at this point, right? We still got a lot to play out from 2024, but this was definitely a great matchup. And what's interesting is lately, Mark, we have a lot of fights that look good on paper, but they don't play that way out in real life. This one did, and more. It's definitely the leader at this point.
Yeah, listen, man, this was a hell of a fight. I'd like to see it again. I would like to see it run back immediately because there's a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, me, I'm a big Virgil fan. And to be honest with you, I was real disappointed, man. It's like my favorite football team losing, you know? I get all fanned up, emotional. I was real upset. I expected more from him. I hope they run it back, and I want him to look better.
Wait. You're telling me you had Bohachuk winning the fight?
I
Because
think
you
Bohachuk
said
won
it's
the
like
fight.
watching your favorite team lose.
Yeah,
You thought Vergil Ortiz lost?
yeah. I think Virgil Ortiz lost for sure. He lost. I mean, those two 10-8 rounds did it for me, but they gave Ortiz 8 rounds. I think that's just way too much. I'm not gonna call it a robbery. I don't like to call these things robberies. You know, I don't like to throw that term around loosely, but in my opinion, he lost. At best, it was a draw. I really expected more from Virgil, though. I'm disappointed, but I do think Boachuk won.
Interesting. I thought Ortiz won, and I'm an Ortiz fan, Mark. So I really tried hard not to be biased when watching this fight. I can see a draw. I can even see a 7-5 in favor of Bohachuk. There were some close rounds, some rounds that are hard to judge, especially when both fighters are throwing a lot of punches at each other like that. It's really hard to tell who had the upper hand when they're both putting in equal work. Bohachuk looked really strong in there. Virgil's power, I saw him actually shake up Bohachuk a lot, but the heart that Bohachuk showed to not ever go down or not ever really look hurt. He hit it really well, but if you looked at his legs and you looked at his reluctance to punch back after getting hurt, you could tell he was stunned. There are a couple of things I want to address really quick about this fight, Mark. You've got some people talking about Ortiz's chin. With those two knockdowns, there are coming a lot of criticism. They're saying, oh, Ortiz has no chin. Ortiz never really looked hurt after those knockdowns. Outside of those knockdowns, I saw Vergil win more rounds than Bohachuk. So we can kind of see that the fight was close and there was going to be some controversy there. Two, I agree with you. Robbery, I don't think that you can call a fight that had a lot of close rounds, at least in my eyes, a robbery, right? So I think you could either have a Bohachuk winning, a draw, or Ortiz winning. I can see all of those scenarios. What did you think about Ortiz facing his first 154 pounder? We know this is his third fight above welterweight, but he never faced a true 154 pounder. And Bohachuk was his first real junior middleweight. How do you think he fared?
I think he did real good, man. Boachek is a true 154 guy who I think would be a true 160 guy. And talking about his chin, listen, man, Ortiz has a chin. He took some solid punches from this guy, and he withstood that big giant's major punches throughout the fight, even harder punches than those knockdowns. And yeah, I like Virgil at 154. He's a true 154 guy. I think this is a good division for him. I think he can compete with anybody in this division after Bohachuk. I think these two guys are clearly right now the top guys at that division besides Crawford. I think Crawford's at another level than these two dudes. But he looked great.
So okay, let me stop you right there. You said you think he's ready for anybody in the division. They're talking about, and they, I mean, Turki Al-Sheikh and Oscar De La Hoya were both on the record saying that they would like to put Vergil in with Terrence Crawford. Do you think Ortiz has a shot in that fight?
No, and I don't even like that fight next for him. Being a fan Ortiz, Mark, is wanting him to run it with this guy again because I think the fans want it. I think everybody will see it. I think it'll be a big money maker, and maybe we'll even get a trilogy out of it. But I don't think he has any business after the way I saw him perform. I don't think he has any business with Crawford.
I disagree. I think they should do that fight if Vergil really feels that he's ready for it, and his team, which appears so. Robert Garcia is on the record saying he would like to see Vergil's next fight be against Terrence Crawford. I think they have something there, Mark. They didn't look dominant in their first fights at 154 pounds. Crawford didn't look very dominant against Madrimov. Ortiz didn't look dominant against Bohachuk. So it's kind of interesting that both of these guys coming off close fights, close wins, for them to now face each other. I think you have an interesting dynamic with Crawford being 30. He's going to be 37 in about a month. Ortiz, the young gun, does he have flaws at 154? Yes, he does. But did Crawford look like he was at his very best in his last fight too? No, he didn't. I think this is a good crossroads match. And if it doesn't happen next, I don't want to see it because I don't want the excuse for any fighter to be, oh, well, Vergil's struggling to make 154 pounds. And that's what caused the issue. Or I don't want people complaining about Crawford being too old. That's the reason why Vergil won. Let's put these guys in together. Now it's the good time for it because if you put off the fight too much longer, there are going to be excuses built in on both sides.
Yeah. Do you think that there's going to be some fans clamoring for a rematch? I mean, this was a damn good fight.
Yeah. Robert said also, and I agree with him here. Robert said, if we don't fight Crawford next, Bohachuk deserves a rematch. And I think that's music to my ears, man. I would love to see a rematch as well. There's no way that this fight won't be a good fight again.
Yeah.
The styles just match up too perfectly.
Yeah, David, going back to your notes here, you like Vergil at 154 because he can actually box, right? And we saw him have to do that. And you said he boxes behind the power jab. And we saw him have to do that against a bigger, stronger guy that he's going to probably face a lot of bigger, stronger guys at 154. Talk to us more about that.
Well, we saw a different side of Vergil in this fight that we didn't really know he had. Coming up, you knew Vergil had skills. He has really good punch placement, right? He knows where to put his shots, and he's ultra aggressive, and he looks like he's trying to hit the home run with every swing. But here you saw a more methodical boxer puncher, Vergil using some head movement in there and working that jab, man. That jab looked beautiful. And actually, I think that Vergil made this fight harder than it needed to be because when he was pumping that jab out and keeping Bohachuk at a distance, he had the advantage there. Bohachuk didn't know how to close the distance on that jab. It was only when Vergil chose to engage and stay on the inside that Bohachuk it looked like Bohachuk was getting his shots in. Mm-hmm. I liked seeing that side of Ortiz, and it's good to know that he has different wrinkles. It was good to see that extra side of his arsenal that I wasn't aware that he had.
Yeah. Listen,
and it's a good way to extend your career too, man. Yeah, you don't have to go in there going balls to the wall with every fight. Yeah. Oh, and Mark, did you hear Robert in the corner? In the corner, I remember, and I was just screaming, yes, that's right. Listen to him. Robert was telling him, don't try to knock him out with every punch. Stop throwing every punch so hard. Change it up. That's how you set the guys up with knockouts anyway. Like, I know Vergil usually accumulates the damage, but a lot of knockouts happen because you catch the guys off guard. You flick a jab, and then boom, you throw a strong one a heavy punch that people aren't expecting, and that's what catches most people, right?
Yeah.
I think Vergil needs to learn how to control and pull back, change up the tempo of his punches So not everything is a fastball.
Yeah. Well, it was a great fight, man. I mean, fight of the year candidate, David, Virgil, and Bohachuk put on a type of fight that people love. You know, those Arturo Gatti type of fights with Mickey Ward, those blood and guts fights, Morales, Barrera, you know, one of those fights that just people absolutely love. You put down on your notes here that Oscar has to find a way to get people to watch Virgil Ortiz fight, which is true, right? He's really not fighting in big venues, and he's such a big talent. Don't you think that he pretty much helped himself tremendously after having like a bang it out fight like that? People love that stuff.
No, I've always said Ortiz should be a bigger star than he is. All you have to do is get people to watch him fight, and they're gonna become fans. The problem is he's hasn't really performed in front of many people. A lot of the venues that he performs at are pretty small. They had a few fights in the Dallas area for him, but they never really built them up in his home area. And then they're putting him in a lot of cards in California and Vegas, even though he's from Texas, right? We know where he's from, Grand Prairie, Texas, and he gets support out there, but they haven't built him up into an attraction yet. And I just really think Oscar needs to push Vergil harder, because this is a guy, you have a guy here who's all business in the ring, has a fun and exciting style. And outside of the ring, he stays out of trouble. He's not messing around with illegal substances and, just getting into all the extra drama and controversy. He stays out of that, man. This is a good, hard-nosed, hard-working kid. He wants to establish a legacy. He takes his career seriously. And who can't get behind somebody like that?
Virgil Ortiz, as far as what's next for him, I don't want him to fight Crawford after what I saw. I would rather him fight the winner of Fundora and Spence, and then hopefully it is a Spence. And I think he can beat a Spence at this point in Spence's career with all the damage his body's taken with the traffic and the beating he took from Crawford. I'd like to see it go that way. What would you like to see next from him?
I agree with Robert. I think let's go for the Crawford fight, man. Take on Crawford, see where you stand. He's young enough to, if that fight doesn't go his way, he's young enough to come back from that. He still has plenty of years to go. But you've got a pound for pound talent right in your same division. You got to take it, man. Now is the time, because if you wait any longer, you're never going to get the credit that you deserve for that if you do win that fight. So go for it now, man. And that could be the fight that would launch Vergil into a whole different level.
I feel bad for Bohachuk because even though I would love the rematch immediate, and boxing fans would love an immediate rematch, unfortunately, I think Bohachuk is going to get swept under the rug, and they're not going to see him again for a while. I don't think he's going to fight him next.
You know what though, Mark? But Bohachuk, Turkey Al-Ashik thought it was a draw. And he went up to Bohachuk to congratulate him after the fight. I saw him shaking Bohachuk's hand. So I don't think Bohachuk is going to get swept under the rug. If a rematch doesn't happen, I'd love to see Madrimov and Bohachuk fight each other. I think that could be an interesting fight as well.
Yeah. I think Madrimov takes that. I think Madrimov beats both of these guys.
Vergil and Bohachuk.
Yeah. Madrimov and Crawford are at a whole other level.
Very interesting. I don't know, man. I think Virgil's too busy for Madrimov. I think he's too busy for him, and fast. He's fast. Virgil has speed. That speed is something else, man.
Yeah, that right hand is fast.
The right hand, everything comes at you quick. And I think that's an underrated part of Virgil's game is his speed.
And he also, we know he can fight going backwards too now. We know he can kind of.
So
we know he can box. So
he could give Madrimov some different looks.
Yeah.
I think Vergil gives Madrimov a tough fight.
Yeah.
I don't know who wins that one, but I wouldn't say it's clear either way.
Yeah,
I like that.
Venado Lopez, David, got stopped by Angelo Leo, who's now the IBF featherweight champion. Hey, Angelo Leo now is a 2-time world champion, David.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
You know what? Angelo Leo, man, I've heard he came up kind of hard. He didn't really have an easy path in his professional career. So, congratulations to him and his team. That's got to be knockout of the year, bro.
Oh, yeah.
of the year. Uh,
I saw it with Bob Santos.
yeah. So, Mark, we've talked about Venado Lopez a lot. I'm still a fan of him, but that dude has a very, we've said this before. He has a very Prince Nassim Hamed type of style. Fights with his hands down, does a lot of things wrong, but it worked for him. And you just kind of knew he was going to be due for an upset eventually. It's going to take somebody with fundamentals to take advantage, and it happened. But you know what's weird? That knockout didn't come with Venado's hands down. He was getting caught with his hands down a lot in this fight, and he took the punches well. He actually had his guard up when that left hook landed, and it still snuck through. That's the ironic thing about this knockout. It was a hell of a shot, man. Got to be knockout of the year.
Yeah, man, it's got to be knockout of the year, man. Angelo Leo, wow, that was a freaking awesome shot. And yeah, he didn't see it coming. He had his guard up, but he didn't even see it. He didn't even have time to just kind of move or react or nothing. He had his guard
You
up
know what made the
again.
knockout worse too, Mark? When he went down, he hit his head really hard on the
Oh,
mat.
yeah.
He couldn't even break his fall. So, I mean, he
Mhm.
was definitely hurt by the punch. But what amplified it, and he couldn't even, he could barely move. He was like almost trying to do half a sit up, trying to get up.
Mhm.
His head bouncing on the mat very violently, man. That pretty much ended it for him.
Most
And
boxers will have a knockout like that and really have it affect them because they'll show it over and over, and you have to see it everywhere. And it's knockout of the year, and it's embarrassing. But man, I have to give Aldo Lopez kudos for coming out, talking to the media, like, just taking it on the, kind of laughing about it. It's like it's not a big deal. He pretty much faced it, answering questions about it, taking pictures. He didn't go into hiding. Um, it is what it is, and I think he's gonna have the mindset of, it is what it is, and we just got to continue. But a lot of boxers won't recover from a knockout like that, and I'm not talking physically, mentally, like in the ring.
oh, there's
You know,
there's both, right? There's both
Mhm.
sides to it. There's a physical component to it where you might get knocked out easier because of it, but then there's also the emotional part, which you're saying, the mental part.
Yeah. La duda de la mente cuando estás en el ring. Is he gonna doubt himself in the ring? Is he gonna be scared of that shot? But as far as going into hiding and he ain't doing that. So it gives me promise and hope that when he gets in there, he'll probably handle it well. But we got to see that when he's actually in there, how he's gonna react.
Yeah, but hey, man, congratulations to Angelo Leo. I mean, he kind of shook up the division now. He's putting
Yeah.
himself in really good position with the other title holders at 126 pounds. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next.
I haven't heard anything about a rematch. Maybe they had something in place. I don't know, but it was a darn good fight. It wasn't like anybody was dominating. So I'd like to see a rematch.
Yeah, featherweight is it's kind of open, man. It's kind of open. So Angelo Leo's right in the mix.
It's a lot of names at that division, man. It's only a matter
Yeah.
of time that Inoue comes over and slaps everybody.
Well, remember, he's going to stay at 122 for
Yeah,
at least 2 or 3 years. So I think there's plenty of time to settle 126 and find out who's going to be the man before Inoue gets up there.
it'd be pretty cool if Shushu made it. They have that little silent rivalry going on. One man flies across the world to see one fight and walk out. He literally
Well,
walked in
that's
moments
not
before
exactly what
Shushu's
happened.
fight.
Inoue was in town for the Boxing Writers Association of America naming him Fighter of the Year. So
Dude,
he was accepting an award dinner that weekend. So that's what he was in town for. But he went to the fights only to watch that one fight, and then he left.
he got there moments before, sat down, watched it, and left right
And then
after.
left. Yeah.
That
So
tells me something, man. That is
that
silent
does say
sleep.
something because he's heard Shushu's name. He was checking him out for a reason. That's definitely true.
Well, that's it for this week, folks. We had a hell of a fight to recap. Ortiz versus Bohachuk. Let us know what you guys think. who you guys think won. Did you guys call it a robbery or not? Would you guys like to see this fight again? And do you guys think that this great fight is being drowned by all the controversy around it? That's it for us. We'll see you next time. David?
Don't forget, y'all, like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you on the next video.